Wait, Mark Zuckerberg on Apple Vision Pro.
I have to ask, Apple just announced a mixed reality headset called Vision Pro for $3,500, available in early 2024. What do you think about this headset?
Is this really loud or is this just me?
What do you think about this headset?
Well, I saw the materials when they launched it. I haven't gotten a chance to play with it yet. So kind of take everything with a grain of salt. But a few high-level thoughts. I mean, first, I do think that this is a certain level of validation for the category, right? Where, when we were the primary folks out there before saying, hey, I think that this, virtual reality, augmented reality, mixed reality, this is going to be a big part of the next computing platform. I think having Apple come in and share that vision will make a lot of people who are fans of their products really consider that. And then, of course, the $3,500 price.
Dude, it's so...
on the one hand, I get it with all the stuff that they're trying to pack in there. On the other hand, a lot of people aren't going to find that to be affordable. So I think that there's a chance that them coming in actually increases demand for the overall space, and that Quest 3 is actually the primary beneficiary of that, because a lot of the people who might say, hey, this, I'm going to give another consideration to this, or, now I understand maybe what mixed reality is more, and Quest 3 is the best one on the market that I can afford. And it's great also, right? I think that's, and in our own way, I think there are a lot of features that...
It's so funny, dude. I'm so internet rotten brained in my head that I'm expecting the CEO of Facebook to be trashing a somewhat competitor. You know what I mean? Like if somebody was like, hey, what do you think about, in the YouTuber world, it's like, hey, what do you think about this YouTuber trying to do this thing that's similar to you? And it's like, man, fuck that guy. You know what I mean? All the internet fights and stuff, but he's just he's coming out, he's like, I think we're actually going to benefit from this. This is how the rest of the world interacts. I'm sitting here why is he not shitting on him? Why is there no drama? Mark Zuckerberg slams the Apple Vision Pro, calls Tim Cook a loser.
We're leading on. So I think that's a
really good point that he makes.
That could be quite good. And then obviously over time, the companies are just focused on somewhat different things, right? Apple has always...
This feels like a very media trained response too. YouTube is the king of drama. Yeah. $3,500 is a crazy price, Jason. I agree. It's a crazy price tag.
I think focused on building really kind of high-end things, whereas our focus has been on we have a more democratic ethos. We want to build things that are accessible to a wider number of people. We've sold tens of millions of Quest devices.
Damn.
My understanding
is that a lot, actually?
Just based on rumors, I don't have any special knowledge on this, is that Apple is building about 1 million of their device, right? So just in terms of what you kind of expect in terms of sales numbers, I just think that this is, Quest is going to be the primary thing that people in the market will continue using for the foreseeable future. And then obviously over the long term, it's up to the companies to see how well we each executed the different things that we're doing. But
yeah, I'll let him finish.
We kind of come at it from different places. We're very focused on social interaction, communication, being more active, right? So there's fitness, there's gaming, there are those things. Whereas I think a lot of the use cases that you saw in Apple's launch material were more around, people sitting, people looking at screens, which are great. I think that you will replace your laptop over time with a headset. But I think in terms of kind of how the different use cases that the companies are going after, and they're a bit different for where we are right now.
Yeah. So
dude, it's so interesting too, because I literally talked about this. We couldn't watch the entire Apple reveal from their official YouTube channel about the Apple Vision Pro because YouTube kept claiming it was copyrighted content, and then it shut my stream down so we couldn't talk about it. But after reacting to that video, we literally had a whole talk about it. And the Apple Vision Pro headset, I personally felt it's kind of gimmicky. It has some cool features, right? You can sit down on your couch and scroll through the photos that are in your camera roll. You can sit down on your couch and watch, movies on what would be a giant movie theater type screen. I think that's the biggest pull for it. All the other use cases though, when Apple tries to touch on productivity, they show someone working on a PowerPoint, that just doesn't make any sense. You would want a keyboard in order to edit text. It just doesn't feel intuitive for that level of work yet. The way I interpret Apple's move is over their 10-minute video that I watched, they kind of had to stretch the video in order to make it seem like they had a whole lot of features. But really, it's just you can sit down. There's some very specific things, right? You could do a 3D camera. You can watch movies on a big screen. You can take 3D pictures. Those things are all cool. You can do a 3D rendered FaceTime with other people. Those things are all cool, but they're kind of gimmicky. They don't really add any functionality. So I kind of agree with Mark's take here. And it's kind of Facebook was kind of the head of saying look, hey, this is probably where computing, social media, the next level of interaction and technological evolution is headed. Let's get started on this now. And I think Apple's like, hey, you know what? We agree. Let's start on this now. So at least now that Apple's making a headset, they're not going to be behind once this technology actually becomes like a thing. I still think we're a ways away from, we've got to solve battery life issues. Even though the Quest Life is way less expensive, it's not very like, it got memed a lot. Their like whole Horizon app that they made looked kind of like an old retro game. It didn't really look realistic. But in my head, when I think about VR and AR technology, like when you think about technology that's changed the world, it's been like the internet and social media. And the reason those things have really changed the world is because they've allowed human beings to connect more. And we're very social creatures. That's going to be a big reason that you're going to be able to get a lot of people on board with a new tech product, a new wave of technology. And I think VR, AR will be that next level of computing, like Mark said, because it'll enable us to have more intimate social connections with people. Like imagine instead of just FaceTiming, which is already a step above a phone call or a step above sending a letter to somebody, right? If you're going really old school. Imagine VR is like Jose puts on his VR headset. I put on my VR headset. We're both sitting on our couches in our living rooms, but then we put on our headsets and it looks like we're in the room together. And there's a virtual table in front of us. We can play cards and we can interact and we can chat, but it feels like we're in the same space. It's almost like teleportation, but not quite. That feels like very much where we're headed. And that's going to be the biggest pull for a large general audience of people to get on board with, in my opinion. But everything right now just feels kind of gimmicky. And it's, the Quest Pro and stuff like the Valve Index is going to be, very niche for people who are excited about the tech or who want a game, or people like me who want to make content on other people who have money to blow. But the $3,500 price tag is ridiculous. Apple knows that that's not for the average consumer. My guess is they're just like, look, we agree with the rest of the world that this is probably where technology is headed. So let's just get our foot in the door now. And that's why I kind of last thing I'll say is like, I sided with Facebook and Meta when they made this decision to like change their whole company name to Meta. That was a great decision because you got to look at it from like their business perspective, right? Facebook had reached the ceiling of like social media success, right? Like how many, like 3 billion active users, there's 8 billion people in the world. Realistically, yeah, Facebook could continue to grow as a social media platform, right? But like they've pretty much hit the ceiling. There's not really anywhere else for them to go. So as a business, they can say, look, we can maybe grow a few percentages more year over year, but we're going to start losing people. We're going to kind of fade out to newer, cooler, hipper things that come out. So we can do this maybe for a couple of more years, or we can say, hey, look, this is probably where social media and technology and human interaction is actually headed. Let's just make a hard pivot and put all our chips on VR, AR. And I think that's the smartest decision they could have made. But a lot of people clowned them for it. I think that's the smartest business decision that they could have made. And I think they'll be right in the long term.
So their gaming wasn't a big part of the presentation, which is interesting. It feels like mixed reality gaming is such a big part of that. It was interesting to see.
Not for most people, though.
Well, I mean, look, there are certain design trade-offs in this where, I think they made this point about not wanting to have controllers, which on the one hand, there's a certain elegance about just being able to navigate the system with eye gaze and hand tracking. And by the way, you'll be able to just navigate Quest with your hands too, if that's what you want.
One of the things I should mention is that the capability from the cameras to with computer vision to detect certain aspects of the hand, allowing you to have a controller that doesn't have that ring thing.
Yeah, the hand tracking in Quest 3 and the controller really nice. Tracking is a big step up from the last generation. And one of the demos that we have is basically an MR experience teaching you how to play piano, where it basically highlights the notes that you need to play, and it's like it's hands, it's no controllers. Mm-hmm. But
that's cool.
I think if you care about gaming, having a controller allows you to have a more tactile feel and allows you to capture fine motor movement much more precisely than what you can do with hands without something that you're touching. So again, I think there are certain questions which are just around what use cases are you optimizing for. I think if you want to play games, then I think that's
kind of what points to the Apple Vision Pro too, is like, I feel like Apple wanted to get into the VR space, but they needed to wait for the technology to develop and then kind of do it the Apple way. It's a very Apple thing to have a very lightweight, comfortable headset that's made out of really high quality materials, but Apple would have never released a product that required you to be tethered to a computer. That's not the Apple way to do it. They needed to be lightweight, easily portable. And I'm sure Apple is so pissed that they even had to have it tethered to a battery pack. I'm sure that sucks for them, but that's their way of getting into the industry, right? Because the perfect Apple way would be the battery would be embedded, but somebody made a decision that would make the headset too heavy, it'd be uncomfortable. And this is a small compromise in order to like give a little bit more longevity to the headset's battery. But like as far as the whole gaming thing too, what I feel like most people are gonna have to realize is like, yeah, even though the Apple Pro, like they didn't make a whole lot of advertisements towards gaming, that's not what most people are gonna be purchasing a product like that for. I get that'll be like probably a big part of it, but again, when you're Apple and you're trying to market towards the widest, most general audience possible, I feel like their marketing is it's gonna highlight that, but it's not gonna focus on it. That's not gonna be like, again, I think like social interaction and connecting people is gonna be the big push for AR and VR.
Then I think you want to design the system in a different way, and we're more focused on kind of social experiences, entertainment experiences. Whereas if what you want is to make sure that the text that you read on a screen is as crisp as possible, then you need to make the design and cost trade-offs that they made that lead you to making a $3,500 device. So I think that there is a use case for that for sure, but I just think that the companies, we've basically made different design trade-offs to get to the use cases that we're trying to serve.
There's a lot of other stuff I would love to talk to you about the metaverse, especially the Kodak Avatar, which I've gotten to experience a lot of different variations of recently that I'm really, really excited about.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk about that too.
I'll have to wait a little bit because, I think there's a lot more to show off in that regard.
Great video. Zuck obviously got his hairline trimmed to perfectly line up with the top of a pair of VR goggles. This man is always one step ahead. Oh, why you gotta do my boy Mark like that, dude? No. Wait, he actually is perfectly outlined for that. That's funny. Mark's programming is getting really good. He did feel more like human in this interaction. Very media trained though. Like the way he was responding felt very calculated. Not necessarily off-putting because I felt like he was honest and transparent where he needed to be, but the fact that we can hear some of the most influential CEOs discuss products just a few days after they drop is mind-blowing. I love this podcast. Keep being great, Lex. That is really cool. That's really cool.